Okay, so welcome to science. If you don't have your science textbook and your activity manual, why don't you go ahead and get it now and pause it and come right back. Don't forget a pencil too. Okay, boys and girls, so let's just do a quick review of what we have learned so far. We're at the last 2 pages of our chapter. On Wednesday, we're going to review um, chapter 4. Okay, I'm going to find a way to send you Science Buzz so you can play at home, and then Thursday you will take your test, and I will send that over to you via email. Okay, so let's review what is an ecosystem. An ecosystem is all living and non-living things living in one area. That's what it's called, an ecosystem. So you have trees, animals, the air, right? The air, if it's moist air, if it's dry air, cold air, that's all part of the ecosystem. Um, what is an environment? An environment are all the non-living things that surround a living thing. Okay, so the weather, the air, sunlight, they're all part of the environment. Rocks and soil, water, they're all part of the environment. Buildings are also part of the environment. Okay, let's review the word population. The population is all the living things of one kind living in one area. So if you have 5 ducks living in the pond, the population is 5 ducks. If you have 2 swans living in the pond, well, then the population of swans is 2. Okay, the population would not be 7 because 7 would be the number of both the ducks and the swans, and that is something else. That is called a community. All the different living things that live in one area, that's called a community. So the 5 ducks, the 2 swans, the 10 fish, the 3 frogs, they're all part of a community. They all live together. They're all different types of animals, but they live together in one area, and that's called a community. A habitat is the place where a living thing has food, water, and shelter. Okay, pretty simple. Is where they live. Is where they live, where they eat, and where they drink. And that is a habitat. So for those of you who have pets at home, you try to create a habitat for them where they are able to get all their basic necessities. All right? We know that a producer, and this is just a review of all the words that we've learned so far, and there are a lot in this chapter, so I'm going to try to also send you a Quizlet so that you can practice these words. I'll work on that tomorrow and send it so you could practice on your own as well. Okay, so a producer makes his own food and gets his energy directly from the sun. And if you remember, plants are producers because they make their food through the process of, if you said photosynthesis, you are correct. Yes, photosynthesis. Very good. We also have we have consumers, and consumers are animals that eat for energy. You and I are consumers. Those of you that have dogs and cats, we have a rabbit. By the way, one day I'll show you the rabbit. You'll get a kick out of him. They're consumers. They eat for energy. They don't make their own food. We don't make our own food. We have to eat in order to have energy. And a decomposer, it helps break down dead things, and it provides nutrients for plants and soil. Okay, so we have three types of living things: producers, which are plants; consumers, which are animals and humans; and decomposers. An example of decomposers are worms and mushrooms. Okay, they break things down in order for us to have nutrients in the soil for the plants to grow, and so on and so forth. Now let's talk about consumers. If you remember, there are three different types of consumers: herbivores, and we know that herbivores are what eaters? They're plant eaters. Very good. We also have omnivores, and omnivores eat what? They eat both plants and meat. And then we have carnivores, and carnivores eat only meat. So herbivores eat plants, and some examples of herbivores will be koalas, gophers, zebras, sheep, rabbits. They only eat plants, so they are herbivores. Omnivores would be humans, bears, skunk, for carnivores, of course, we have the mighty lion and tigers, and even some birds like the eagle. They are also carnivores. Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and talk about. We started talking about this in class, and we had a really good discussion. One of the best discussions I think we've had in science so far. And we talked about changes to the ecosystem. And we mentioned a few things that can change the ecosystem. And I'm just going to review some of the things that you had said, because we did have a really good discussion about it. We said that fishing can cause changes to the ecosystem. That's why there are laws in place as to how many fish, the size of fish that you can take when you go fishing. We also said that natural disasters such as hurricanes and floods, wildfires, they can also change the ecosystem. And the biggest change to the ecosystem was when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. The change there was that sin, since they disobeyed God, they sinned, and they brought death into the world. When God created everything, He didn't create death. He wanted people to live eternally with Him, but because of sin, it separated God from man, bringing death. And death is the separation from God and man. So that was the main change in the ecosystem. When people chop down the rainforest, that also brings change. We said that if you see a big log on a hike, leave it alone, because in that log or underneath the log, those are animals' homes, so you don't want to change anything. So we're going to finish up reading that chapter today, and we're reading in your book pages 76 and 77. And you're going to read it silently. And as you read, you're going to think about the following question: what do predators help control? What do predators help control? You're going to pause this video and you're going to read pages 76 and 77 in your book, and then we're going to go over some things. Okay? Just pause it and come right back when you're done. Okay, so we talked about how there is a balance. Okay? When something changes in the ecosystem, other things change as well. So just because there's one thing, that one thing causes other things to change. Okay? Lightning, the second paragraph talks about lightning. It can start a fire to burn a forest. Now, many habitats are destroyed. So the one thing, the lightning caused the fire. The fire caused the habitats to be destroyed. Plants and animals might be killed. You see how the one thing, the lightning, caused all these other things? Plants and animals could be killed. Okay? And those are very sad changes. Very sad changes. But they also show God's amazing design. And I spoke to you about this in class a little bit. I told you how a year or two before my family and I moved here to Massachusetts, there was a small brush fire near us. And I remember driving and by the area and seeing just ashes where trees used to be. And it was kind of sad to look at, to be honest with you. But then a few months later, we drove again. I'll say maybe a year later. We drove by that area again, and we saw new trees growing, new vegetation coming. So the ashes, okay, the ashes created a way for new life to grow. That's even in the Bible. You make beauty for ashes. So the ashes are there, and no one likes to see ashes because it reminds us of something that has been burned, right? But out of the ashes, a new ecosystem comes to life. This is all part of God's amazing design. New plant starts to grow. The animals that have left, they come back to the ecosystem. Okay? Over time, the new forest grows. And it is similar to the old forest, but it's also different because it's new. So when things get destroyed in a brush fire, like we see on TV sometimes in California, early this year it was Australia, it is very sad. It's devastating. The loss of life, the loss of things that happen is really sad. But things come back, and God makes it so because he brings new life. And I think that's exciting. I think that's very exciting. Now, the question that I wanted you to answer as you read was, and I have my book on the computer, so you see me looking up this way. What do predators help control? And if you look on page 77, the very top, underneath the picture of the eagle, it says God uses predators to keep an ecosystem in balance. So predators are there for a very special purpose. They help control population sizes. Okay? The number of living things that an ecosystem can support depends on the needs of the plants and animals being met. Okay? So these are very important. When God created the universe, he didn't make mistakes. Everything is in perfect balance. He didn't make the predators eat all the animals and then we're left with no animals. No, he made them so that they could keep the population of the other animals in control. Think about the frog. What do frogs eat? They eat flies, right? Now let's say we got rid of all the frogs in the world, because I personally don't want to see a frog in my front yard, and I've seen them. However, God created them to control the insect population. If there are no frogs, think about all the insects that would just be infesting everything. There's balance, there's control. God created everything in that very special purpose. Okay, so we're open to page 63, and I grabbed these pages. I'm pretty sure we haven't completed them, but if we have, that's okay. It's a good time to review, okay? You're working on pages 63 through 65, and I want us to go first to page 65, because that's the page that I want you to pay close attention to. As I said, this week you will be taking your Chapter 4 test. And as you know, the Chapter 4, all the tests have a writing part. And I want you to understand what to do. So please listen carefully to this part. It's very important. I'm going to read the top of page 65. Write about it. There are many uses for the pine tree ecosystem. The spotted nutcracker is a bird that eats the seeds of pine trees. Pine needles are eaten by some butterflies and moths. Many pine trees are used for lumber. After the trees are cut down, new young trees are planted. But pine beetles are killing many of the pine trees in the ecosystem. Write a paragraph explaining 2 ways that the pine beetles might affect parts of the ecosystem. So here is how you could answer your question, okay? You could say that the spotted nutcracker might not have enough seeds to eat. It may need to move to another ecosystem. There may not be enough pine needles for the butterflies and moths. They may also need to move to a new ecosystem. New trees may not grow in place of the pine trees that the beetles kill. Okay? Go ahead and work on pages 63 through 65. Use your book. Remember, I told you in class, I want you to get used to looking back at your reading. So you could look back at your reading. This is based on pages 68 through 75. Okay? Go back to the reading. It's okay. And then we will work on review for the test on Wednesday. You know, we don't do science tomorrow, Tuesday, but we will go over it. We'll go over the page Wednesday via video, and then I'll send you Science Buzz, and that'll be a lot of fun. Okay, see ya.